The true rules of Duelist Kingdom. Oh, I'm ready for the aneurysm.
The Duelist Kingdom tournament was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. A competition where the best and brightest duelists across Japan competed for the title of King of Games, along with a cash prize of 3 million yen. Why is that converted again? Hey Siri, what's 3 million yen in dollars?
3 million Japanese yen is 26,500.
Pegasus, you cheapskate! You playboy cheapskate!
$9.26.
If we take that and we apply inflation, the tournament took place in around 2006. Inflation, you carry the money. That cash prize today would probably be worth about $50,000. Honestly,
not bad for a YCS though, right? Am I right?
That's a lot of money. But for a guy that owns an island, a castle, and has a monopoly on the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, you'd think he would have splurged a little bit more on that prize. However, to be fair, the dub did change the prize to $3 million instead, which is obviously amazing.
Yeah.
It just creates another big problem. Joey really wanted to win the prize money to pay for his sister's eye operation, and the entire prize was the cost to pay it. $50,000 makes sense for an eye operation. $3 million? What was she having done? Was she getting the Sharingan implanted into her eyes or something?
That's the one.
Anyway, getting back on track, Yugi was forced to enter this tournament after Pegasus had stolen his grandfather's soul. In order to get him back, he would have to win the whole thing. And while Yugi seemed to know more or less exactly how the rules worked in this tournament, for us at home, it almost seemed as if they were simply making it up as they went along.
Honestly, to me, it feels like it because the Weevil fight is just a perfect example of like the shenanigans happening there, where I'm just like, you know, I'm just like, oh yeah, activate Magical Meltdown. Adding Alistair to hand, normal summon Alistair, add Invocation to hand, response, you know, responses in between, right? It's just like, I play this card to burn the forest, and because the forest is burning, this turns into a wasteland. Or I stab the moon, and I'm just like, no, none of this makes sense, it's all wrong.
And to a degree, there is some truth to that.
Yeah.
How about we answer that question? What are the official rules for the Duelist Kingdom tournament? Before we start, I'm sure there's something you're all very curious of. A bunch of duelists going to a remote island, how did they keep their cards safe when they were there? Well, they kept their cards safe.
They kept their cards safe in Ziploc lunch bags with rubber bands tied around it, as everyone did in high school, let's be real.
In today's sponsor, the Extra Wallet. Did you think I meant Duel Monsters cards? No, I meant their debit and credit cards. Extra is a high-quality, ultra-thin wallet that keeps things minimal, so that you don't have a giant bulge protruding out of your jeans. That sounded wrong. Let me try that again. You know what's...
man, it just, that is the mood. Oh, every time.
Scary? Thieves. And do you know what thieves can do nowadays? They can scan your debit and credit cards through your pockets to steal your hard-earned money.
I have experience. Not experience stealer. I have experience working at a financial institution. How do you think the chips work? The wireless tap pay thing. It's almost like it's a signal that it sends out. Or it's not a signal. You know what I mean, though, right? Where if it works on a tap to pay, this is not out of the question that somebody could have a little tap thing around that they could just, oh, boop, I got the chip. Why I hate chips, honestly.
However, this is where the Extra Wallet comes in. It is made from a material that blocks RFID scanners and prevents wireless theft. On top of this, when I want to use one of my cards, I can do so at the touch of a button, which awesomely fans them out for me to choose from. And when I want to put them back, it's just as easy. Extra also offers tracker cards, which you can pair to your phone so that if you lose your wallet, you can know exactly where it is. It can even call out for help.
Nice.
Symbiotically as well, if you lose your phone but have your wallet, you can call your phone from your wallet to find it.
So hear me out, I kind of need one of these for just this is going to be my new trade binder. Like, because this clearly can hold several. So think about it, you have your, like, Starlight Mirror Jade or your Starlight Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, and you put them in, like, special protective sleeves. Like, you have your sleeves, right? But you, like, maybe use, like, a top loader or something in there, if it can fit a top loader. This is your like discreet ultra deluxe trade binder. See what I did there? See what I did there? Man, I could find so many uses for this.
And right now, if you use my link down in the description, you can get an insane discount off your extra purchases. Treat yourself today using the link in the description and keep your money safe.
I'm ready.
The tournament was invite only. 40 duelists were invited. Each duelist invited was sent a welcome pack.
This feels like it's just day two of a YCS.
Consisting of 5 cards and 2 star chips. Those 5 cards given out were given out to give details of the tournament. For instance, the ship card gave information on when and where they would need to meet to enter. The island card told them that the tournament would take place on Pegasus's private island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The duelist glove card told them about what the star chips were for and allowed them to receive a duel gauntlet for them to keep their starships safe as they dueled. Finally, the Glory of the King's Hand and Glory of the King's Opposite Hand cards were used as the prize cards. The holder of the Glory of the King's Hand card would allow the winner to claim the $50,000 prize money and nothing more or less. Whereas the Glory of the King's Opposite Hand allows the winner to have one more duel, and this was against Maximilian Pegasus himself. If you were able to beat him in a duel, not only would you earn the title of King of Games, you would also receive anything you desired.
However, of course, such a great prize requires a great risk, as if you lose this duel, you lose your soul.
Yugi boy. Maximilian Pegasus is such a playboy, and I absolutely love him. He is just an absolute gem. Soul Trap, my beloved.
The 2 starships would serve as 1, proof of entry to the tournament, and 2, the actual currency within the tournament. You would be gambling these, and this would determine if you moved on to the next round. The reason for this was because starships must be wagered in every duel, with the winner taking all. A duelist with 10 starships qualifies for the finals of the tournament. Those who lost all of their starships or had below 10 at the end of the allotted time would be eliminated. However, with 40 duelists and 80 starships in the mix, this meant that there was a potential to have 8 finalists. And this was something that Pegasus didn't want to happen. Pegasus only wanted 4 to qualify, so he hired 4 eliminators to retrieve the extra 40 starships. In the end, those that made it to the finals would then face off in a mini playoff style tournament.
That's like, for reference, if you're in the Pokemon sphere, that's like if Pokemon was holding a tournament like this and it was like VGC Day 2, but Pokemon had like Wolf Glick, Sajin Park, Blunder plays VGC, right, as well, Thunder Blunder, like a bunch of big content creators. They were like on a team of like 8 or something in like a 40 stack, right, or 40 to 56, whatever Day 2 is gonna have, right, to just start eliminating people from the tournament, right? Effectively the same thing, like. It's kind of great.
Round 1 of the tournament would have a time limit of 48 hours and would be structured as a battle royale. The way it worked was they just set all of the duelists loose on the island, give them a couple minutes to get ready, and then you could just battle to your heart's content. You can ambush people if you want, duel them there, lead them to places, do whatever you want. You've got the whole island, but you've only got 48 hours. So that's everything you need to know about the tournament itself. What about the in-duel rules? Let's take a look.
I think levels didn't matter from my understanding.
A duelist deck must contain 40 cards exactly.
Okay.
No side decking is allowed. On top of that, any additional cards players brought to the island were confiscated. So they had their 40 card deck, anything extra they had was taken away from them.
Bandit Keith, of course, snuck onto the island and was a known cheater, and this is why he had so many extra cards with him, as he'd snuck them on and gave them all to Bones.
I love that this is just, this is just a caricature of Americans, and I absolutely love it. So the no side decking is actually important, because the reason that side decking is such a thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is to prevent auto losses. So for example, if I was playing something against like Trap Tricks, right, and Trap Tricks was just absolutely just ramming me with the trap hole cards, right, I could run something like Trap Jammer, or I could run something like, It's not Gozen. Is it evenly matched? Evenly battle phase? Your opponent can now only have like one card, something like that. I have to remember it. I have to actually read them. Point is, that's why you side deck in those certain cards. Branded, for example, a list that I had seen by Rev's Cards, actually side deck Jinzo. So if I was running against Trap Tricks, suddenly I have a Jinzo that I could honestly use. Or I could use a Jinzo to certain other effects as well. Like, side decking is important to prevent the auto losses. In Magic, it's a little bit different because I play a deck called Tron. I feel like a bunch of people are about to just bash me in the comments. I play modern Tron, let's put it that way, where you'll have something like Karen the Great Boomer, as I call him, Karn the Great Creator, that can literally just grab a thing from your side deck and just put it into play. However, Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't work like that. It is a, like, you know, our token's a big thing this format. Oh, token collector, you know. Is your opponent playing something that has, like, several different monster types? Oh, just play Tikaboo, right? There can only be one. That's why side decking is important to the modern game. It's to prevent auto losses. At a YCS level, it gets a little bit different because, once again, you're trying to go for the most amount of wins, and you're just acknowledging your losses, so you're trying to use it to supplement your main deck, but that's another issue entirely.
However, winning a card from an opponent and using that in your deck is allowed. For example, Joey beat Rex, took his Red Eyes Black Dragon. So what Joey did was take one card out of his deck, put Red Eyes Black Dragon in there. He's got a 40 card deck again. Everything's good. Now, some of you might have a problem with this ruling because later on in the tournament, Yugi is going to have the perfect card to defeat Joey Wheeler, and it almost seems as if his side decked it in. The card, of course, I'm talking about is Dark Sage that can only be summoned by being aged by Time Wizard. However, we'll cover that a little bit later, don't worry. Each duelist begins the duel with 2,000 life points.
You could theoretically write that off as Yugi had faith in Joey the whole time. Theoretically, you could make an argument for that. The 2,000 life points, this is actually a myth. This is a Duelist Kingdom-ism. The game was never at 2,000 or 4,000. It was always 8,000.
And 6 cards in their hand. If a player's life points are reduced to 0, they lose.
Oh boy! Oh boy, this is back when you drew 6. You drew 6 your first... Man, I haven't had that in years. I remember when you couldn't draw your 6th card on your first... I remember when the rules changed. Because in Modernity, you're going first, you get 5 cards. You don't get to draw that 6th one. I remember when you could draw into your 6th. Wow! I have dated myself.
The duel. You can only summon 1 monster per turn. Monsters summoned must be in either face-up attack, face-up defense, or face-down defense. You can flip a set monster up into either face-up attack or face-up defense. Tribute summoning is not an established mechanic. So that means high-level monsters can be summoned without any sacrifices at all.
Mitch, it is not allowed anymore. Going first in Yu-Gi-Oh! From a statistic that I had heard, I would have to have someone cite it. It is over a 50% win chance if you go first. It was a game balancing decision in order for the first player to not draw a card anymore. It used to be, yes, the first player would draw into their 6th card. However, due to game balancing and how the game functions, that 6th card is just really powerful, so therefore it is you draw 5 and you have your first turn.
Blue Eyes White Dragon, 8-star monster. Who needs sacrifices? Just normal summon that straight to the field. A simpler time, if a player does not control a monster and is also unable to summon a monster before the end of their turn, then they automatically lose the duel. Each player can only attack once per turn. Neither player can attack opponents directly. Yes, you heard that right. With only 1 attack per turn and no direct attacks. If you really wanted to, you could stall the heck out of your opponent. Just summon a monster in defense, your opponent attacks. They could have 5 monsters on the board. But
this does make sense because design-wise it does feed into if you do not have a monster on the field. Think of it like a weird, like, chess kind of thing, right? Where if you have a monster on the field and your opponent does not have a monster on the field, you cannot attack correctly. You are claiming check, quote-unquote, right? If they do not have a monster on your opponent's turn that comes around, right? Draw face standby main, right? If your opponent does not have a monster in play and cannot put a monster in play where they lose the duel, that is effectively checkmate, right? I could see how that could work design-wise. I mean, it would favor certain aggro big beaters. It would. So, like, Blue Eyes would become just absolutely insane, especially in a no-tribute format. Get out your biggest hitter. Be the first to get out your biggest hitter to crack your opponent's board. Continue putting on big hitters. So, like, you know, so me versus opponent, right? Me puts in play Jinzo. Opponent puts in play Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes smashes into me. Me puts in play Millennium Shield and defense, right? Opponent puts in play Blue Eyes, activates like Megamorph or something, rush recklessly if anything on a Blue Eyes, smashes into B, opponent's second Blue Eyes cannot attack me, my turn again, I do not have a monster, I cannot play a monster, I therefore just lose the game. I can theoretically see this making sense. It'd be very interesting in an actual game, though.
But they can only attack with one of them, so you can keep stalling with just one monster on the field. However, of course, you're going to be wasting a lot of monsters doing this, and if you just can't summon a monster, well, you're going to lose. If a monster is destroyed by the effect of a card, then the monster's controller is dealt damage equal to half the attack of the monster destroyed. The best example of this is probably Mirror Force. Yugi uses this against Weevil, and half of the attack of all of the monsters is dealt to Weevil.
Yeah.
And again, against Mako Tsunami, he wipes the entire field, and half of that damage is dealt to Mako, which completely wipes out his life points. A monster that is treated as an equip card is still treated as a monster, meaning...
Yeah, so monster destroyed by an effect burning your opponent, that would be a little strong, especially in Modernity. Can you imagine, like, shotgunning a Tikaboo after your opponent built a full board, and that actually causes life point damage? Ooh, yeah, no, glad that's not an actual IRL thing. In regards to I mean, we have pendulums, but they are treated as if they're in the pendulum zone, they are a spell card. If they're in the monster zone, they are a monster card. They have a designated thing depending on the zone. So, his Cocoon being treated as a monster even though it's an equip, yeah, I can't get behind that.
That monster can also be used as a cost. For example, for a ritual monster summon.
All spell cards are treated as quick play spell cards.
Oh baby! Oh, this would make Branded absolutely nutty. I would love this. I would love this so much. Can you imagine being able to set and then like shotgun spell speed 2 Branded Fusion? Oh, baby, that would be hot.
Yes, basically all spell cards in Duelist Kingdom are normal spells, and all of them are treated as if they're quick play spells. Quick play spells don't exist in Duelist Kingdom yet, but their mechanics are just like it, so it's a quick play spell, basically.
Fusion monsters and monsters transformed do not have physical cards.
Yeah.
Instead, you keep the materials on the field, and the game will render their fused or transformed form straight onto the field. If you don't quite understand what I mean, if you look back at Duelist Kingdom, you will never see the fusion card of a fusion monster. Or for example, if a card is transformed into something else through some sort of effect, there isn't a card form of that. It would be safe to assume that there's a long list of fusion cards that you can make, and as long as you know what two monsters can be fused together, you've basically got an unlimited extra deck size.
Yeah.
As long as you have all the fusion materials in your deck.
So to clarify what I said earlier, Yugi having Dark Sage, well, it was never in his deck to begin with. It is a transformed card, something that exists outside of his main deck. Obviously, Yugi was the original owner of Time Wizard, so if he ever had Time Wizard on the field and Dark Magician and failed, his Dark Magician would evolve into Dark Sage. So naturally he knows if he's playing against Joey and Time Wizard uses its ability on him, he can transform his monster into its new state.
Right.
Ritual monsters are kept outside of your main deck. Yes, you heard me right.
Yeah, that was the one that always got me when I was getting into early Yu-Gi-Oh! Is it's like, wait, Relinquished isn't in the extra deck? Nope. Fusion monsters are in the main deck, and that actually became relevant when Necroz came out. Oh boy, Necroz format, that was a time! Let me tell you what. Just having... I have to, chat. I have to interrupt this because you don't understand the Pink Dolphins. You don't understand the Pink Dolphins. So this was Yu-Gi-Oh! About this when the Secret Forces dropped. If you haven't seen this, oh boy, you're in for a treat. So yeah, if you didn't play a Necroz format, that was actually how Necroz format went down. You're welcome.
It's ritual monsters. They aren't in your main deck. You keep them in kind of like an extra deck in your pocket or something like that. All you need is the ritual spell card. You activate the ritual spell, and you can summon the ritual.
Whoa. Wait a minute. I don't like that. Wait a minute.
Something like that. All you need is the ritual spell.
I don't like that. Don't let VTuber Twitter get a hold of this clip.
Spell card, you activate the ritual spell, and you can summon the ritual monster from outside of your deck. Fusion and ritual materials must be on the field to be summoned.
I actually really like Relinquished. I actually still run Thousand Eyes Millenniumize Restrict in my branded build because it's just a solid instant fusion target. Because why not? Let's just shotgun a Millenniumize out to take out the Ash Blossom. Hell yeah!
Meaning you can't activate Polymerization or a ritual spell card with the materials in your hand. They have to be on the field.
Traps are triggered when the activation requirement is met.
Yeah. Not a rule, but a fun fact. Continuous trap cards are super rare in Duelist Kingdom. Look at how Mai talks about her Mirror Wall trap card.
This is a big one, but duels in Duelist Kingdom take place on special dueling arenas. Each dueling arena is made up of different attribute environments. These environments come in ocean, land, meadow, wilderness, graveyard, mountain, forest, desert, and night. A monster of a corresponding attribute summoned to one of these zones will receive a field power bonus.
I'm gonna be honest, I'd be very curious what happens in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! If a field power bonus, quote-unquote, format was a thing. Like, can you just imagine, like, and this would obviously have to be more a casual event, right? Can you imagine showing up to a table, being like, alright, let's go, okay, high roll, who goes first? Okay, I go first. And then you have to, there's like a step before the duel begins, right? Before you actually draw your initial cards. That, okay, what's the field? You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One's like, it's like forest, ocean, mountain, desert, graveyard, and then 6 is no power bonus. I'd be very interested to see where the game goes. And obviously 30% rounded down, right? So, I mean, like, you're not getting weird, like, 75 numbers or anything like that, right? But, like, just, like, I'd be very curious to see this in action. The analytical part of me is very tickled by this being an actual thing.
That would increase its attack and defense by 30%. If a monster boosted by a field power bonus attacks or is attacked by a monster that's attack has been increased by the effect of a spell or trap and not by a field power bonus, then that boost is not applied during battle. What do I mean by this? That sounded really confusing, I know.
Yeah.
The best example, Yugi boosts his Feral Imp's attack by using Horn of the Unicorn. He attacks, but since Weevil's monster's attack was boosted by the field power bonus, then Weevil's monster's attack points take priority. And
I disagree with the attack point priority here. Because effectively, if it does take precedence. You know, there would be a check of, you know, is there a field power bonus at play here? Yes. If yes, is the other a field power bonus? If no, the other field power bonus, the other buff, the attacker's buff would be negated. Therefore, your field power bonus does take priority here. Like, I disagree with it mechanically. I understand it for, like, anime effectiveness. I understand where they're coming from here, and it adds stakes, right? From a mechanic, it turns into a nightmare.
And so, Feral Imp is destroyed, and Yugi takes damage as if Feral Imp had no equipped spell on it at all. Why did they do this? I don't know. I don't really like this. I completely forgot about it when I was rewatching it. The only thing that I can think of is that Pegasus wanted to emphasize the field power bonuses. This was like the gimmick of this part of the tournament. Weevil says you have to rely on either your monster's innate abilities or the field power bonuses to win. So, yeah, there you go. Adding to this, there are also terrain and type advantages.
Think of this as something akin to the Pokemon games.
For example, a winged beast monster who attacks a monster on the ground who is boosted by a field power bonus will lose the field power bonus because the monster in the sky can fly and the monster on the ground can't.
So type effectiveness does actually come into play in the Pokemon TCG. However, it's done in a very different way. So let's take Gardevoir GX when I was playing, right? It actually won a Worlds when I was playing. Gardevoir GX is a stage 2, meaning you have to manually evolve it up, but it does have a type. At the top right is Fairy. Fairy is no longer in the game. They did remove that. Pokemon did remove that. And it does have a weakness and resistance, meaning that if a steel type, or sorry, metal, because it's metal in the metal typing in TCG, darkness typing in TCG, steel and dark in the games. Moving on. If a metal type Pokemon attacks Gardevoir, after the damage, so say for example, there's a 100 attack power move, or metal Pokemon with 100 with an attack, it's going to attack Gardevoir GX, and it's going to have a power of 100. it would go to 200 because it'd be modifying. Now, if you had, say, like a Zoroark, which is a darkness-type Pokemon, attacking, say it had the same attack, 100, it would get minus 20 from that because it has a 20 resistance from it. So that's how Pokemon handles that. In Yu-Gi-Oh, I think it would just get a little jumbled.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like, if you get a monster wet, then of course, if your monster has electric abilities, you'll get a bonus in attack points from that, right? Because it conducts more electricity.
This only works in anime and or show and or like rigged setting. This would be awful to really... The rulebook would be an absolute novel just to get through.
Yeah, or like you use an ability that burns away grass, so they're going to lose the field power bonus because you use the fiery ability to like singe the grass. Basically, what I'm leading to is the final rule of the Duelist Kingdom tournament.
Bold of you to assume the Yu-Gi-Oh! Handbook isn't actually a novel, actually. So, if you want to play a cruel joke on somebody, hand them out of a structure deck, the little Yu-Gi-Oh! Rulebook, hand them that and say that's all you need to play the game. That is the cruelest joke you can ever play on somebody wanting to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Because there are interactions like Book of Moon and Guardian Chimera that come up. There are infinite combos with pole position. How do you resolve final turn if Jowgen comes out, which Jowgen just makes it so you can't summon yours and therefore gets wind. There's a reason final turn is banned, let's put it that way. There are so many nuances and interactions, and there are like steps to the battle phase that are not explained in that. Because it's not just, I mean technically it is, draw phase, standby phase, main 1, battle phase, main 2, end phase, right? Technically those are the phases, but you know what the rulebook doesn't tell you? That when your opponent attempts to go main 1 to battle, if they've summoned more than 5 monsters in a turn, you can say, hold up, I'm gonna activate an effect here because you have passed priority, activate Nibiru, do you have a chain to this? That does not tell you that in the actual rulebook. You have to, like, understand the game and know, because you can't absolutely do that. So say, for example, if your opponent goes on a summoning spree, right? Nibiru, the rock itself, is the out to stuff like that, right? However, if your opponent goes through their main phase 1 and they go, okay, I'm going to go to battle phase, you as the player 2, so me as the other player, has the ability to be like, hold up, main 1, I have an action, Nibiru, right? Because at that point, the way that works is that player 1 has now passed, and it can't go directly from main 1 to main 2 until both players consent. So therefore, player 1 says, I have no actions, consenting to move to battle phase, and I go, hold up, I do not consent, I have an effect, which then gives them an opportunity to have an effect if they want to Veil or something like that. Not Veil, if they want to do something, right? Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a very interesting game. The cruelest joke you can give somebody is hand them the structure deck rulebook and be like, here, have fun.
And that is, all cards have the potential to do something unique if it makes rational sense.
Yeah.
Some of you are going to hate that, but yes. Duel Monsters in the Duelist Kingdom tournament is basically a collaboration with Dungeons & Dragons. You have the card game of Duel Monsters merged together with the mechanics of Dungeons & Dragons.
Technically, wasn't that what the Bakura segment was? The Bakura and Yugi with everyone turning into the small the small cards for the duel, right? Wasn't that the whole thing?
What this means is, whatever's happening on the field, if you can make sense of it and justify basically what is happening, you can kind of get away with anything. For instance, the water field. Logically, water monsters would be able to swim underwater, so it's not hard to believe that they would be able to hide themselves under the water, and this would cause their attack and defense points to be obscured. So that would mean Yugi wouldn't...
But technically that would be public information. It's not face down. Okay, so for example, if I put a Shaddoll Dragon face down, in face down defense position, my opponent doesn't know what that is. For all they know, it's a Man-Eater bug. For all they know, I put Destiny Hero Defender down, right? They don't know what... I could be baiting. I could put an Ash Blossom face down, right? They don't know. If it is face up, it is technically public knowledge in modern game.
Know what he was attacking, and so he could attack blindly into a monster, and it could have more attack. And that makes sense, right? Or like Giant Soldier of Stone. It's made of earth. Yeah. So let's say it moved into the sea, then I guess it could be used as a piece of land to play another monster on. This was what Mako Tsunami thought Yugi's original plan was, to summon Giant Soldier of Stone, make it move into the ocean, and then he would have 2 platforms so we can summon 2 monsters. However, That's not what Yugi did. You see, he played a spell card called Full Moon, which of course, as we all know, the moon controls the tides of the sea.
This is the most shenaniganry that my brain hurts whenever I watch Duelist Kingdom. Let's put it that way. Not that it's bad. It's just like there's such a loose ruling body for Duelist Kingdom. It makes my brain hurt. Like I try to find the pattern, but there's no pattern.
So by that logic, if I attacked the moon and destroyed it, then the tide would go all the way out, and all those fishy monsters would be exposed, so I can attack them. Right? That makes sense. Or like if I destroyed flotation rings on a castle, and then a card is played that encases all the monsters inside, that means that they can't get away. Now that castle is starting to fall. Logically, if they're all underneath it, and it's got spikes at the bottom of the card, it would crush them all and kill them all. That makes sense. Or how about if I combine a card like...
I mean, honestly, this really would just make a great D&D setting, right? You have, instead of your players, you have your duelists. Your duelists have their decks. They build their decks, right? Here's your free D&D one-shot idea, right? Where you're playing through Duelist Kingdom, right? Or you're playing through a Battle City, right? And, you know, you have your player that's going to be like, oh, well, I run heroes. And your other player that's like, oh, I run magicians, right? Or, oh, I run dragons. I run blue eyes, right? And that's how you solve the encounters, right? Is it's like you don't have your, like, regular draw space, standby phase. Like, you don't have your regular, like, I have my hand, right? But you're able to just kind of bullshit, like, I hold up, pulls out from their disc. I activate this. I activate, Silver's Cry, and I get to summon my blue eyes from the grave. And you just beat the crap out of the monster of the encounter, right? Like, oh my god, this would be such a nutty one-shot.
Living arrow with polymerization, and then I fuse a dying undead...
Someone tweeted this, like, literally yesterday, unironically. This is such a weird one.
Monster with a living monster. Well, that living monster wouldn't like to have a dying monster merged into it, so logically, it would slowly start to decay, just like flesh. That makes sense, I can get away with that. Or maybe Shadow of Eyes doesn't work on female monsters. Or maybe if we multiply a Karibo, there would be so many of it, a monster like Thousand Eyes Restrict wouldn't be able to absorb them all, and would probably go blind if it tried to absorb them all. At the end of the day, just ask yourself, if I was in a D&D campaign, and I said what I wanted to do, and the Dungeon Master rolls his eyes and says, alright, just roll a d20, and you roll a critical 20, he's gonna be like, yeah, go on then, why not? It's basically what Yugi's doing here. Everything he does, he's rolling a d20. He's getting a critical hit. And with that, I'm sorry I can't be more specific with this part of the rules, but basically, those are the rules of the Duelist Kingdom tournament.
Yeah.
I'm sorry they were a little bit vague at the end. One thing I want you to all keep in mind...
It's just because they're vague. There's no getting around it.
The duel between Yugi and Kaiba, where Kaiba threatens to throw himself off the side of the castle, that doesn't count as part of this because they're using those prototype duel discs. They have like a different sort of dueling setup there. So don't consider that if it contradicts anything that we've talked about today. Just think of all the others. But yeah, that was the true rules of Duelist Kingdom. Done. Let me know if there's anything that I missed out. Equally, let me know if there's anything that I got wrong in this video. If there's anything else, I will add them as like a pinned comment or something like that, so we can update this. That would be really cool. But yeah, guys, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Catch you later. Bye, everyone.
I think he covered everything, actually. I think there's, like, what is it? The Bones, Bandit Keith Bones, and whatever the third guy was, right? There's the Bandit Keith Bones interaction, where, like, Call the Haunted bring back the quote-unquote dead version of the monster. However, I think that does fall under, like, shenanigans of, like, the D&D, can I do this, roll a d20 on that, right? I think that's where that falls under play. But, I mean, other than that, that was a more comprehensive list than I could have come up with. Absolutely awesome job, TGS Anime. That was absolutely spectacular. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the best. Right? Yeah, it was. It was a wild game. I don't know. I'm starting to put stock into this weird one-shot idea. I might decide to run one. That might be a little funny, if you will, because just like build your deck and just like have your 40 cards, and that is effectively your skill book, right? That is effectively what you can do during the encounter or the session, right? I kind of want to toy. I'm going to toy with this off stream. I'm going to see if maybe that would be a really cool idea, because I don't think anybody else has done that. But yeah, I'll get back to people on that if that actually goes somewhere, because I'd be very interested in trying